Hi, this is Will Murray. This is your Training Peaks Mental Skills Training Plan. Coach Craig Howey and I put this together to help athletes with their racing and training performance, and also just their enjoyment of the sport. One of the things we've found is that athletes ascribe some percentage of triathlete to their mental work. I mean, you have your swim, bike, and run, and your transitions and everything else, and your strength training and recovery and stretching, but what part about this is mental? And I've asked athletes all over the place how much of triathlon is mental versus physical, and that the answers I get range from about 50% to 125%. I'm like, oh, wow, that's a lot of mental if it's 125%. But what's your estimate of how much of the sport is actually mental, between your ears here versus, your legs and your lungs and your arms? That's what we want to work on. We know that athletes work on their swim, bike, and run, and some of them work on transition, and some of them get body work, and they stretch, and they active recovery, and so forth. But what we're looking for here is, what are the actual steps you can take and techniques you can use to improve your mental skills, to race better, to train better, and to have more enjoyment in the sport? So if your estimate was 50% or 75% or even more, then the question we ask athletes is, well, how much of your time do you actually spend on your mental conditioning versus running and biking and swimming and stretching and lifting and all that kind of stuff? And most athletes, that's when they get the nervous, inappropriate laughter, which is almost none. Well, we're going to bring you some things that that will really help you. If some percentage of this is mental, then that's about your thoughts. And if your thoughts control what happens in your training and your racing and enjoyment of the sport, well, we're going to give you specific techniques that you can use to control your thoughts, and that's how you get over on this and get going. And thoughts come in three major varieties. One is pictures in your head. So you all have a front door of your house or your apartment, and right now you can tell what color that door is, right? Because you can remember it. You make a picture in your head and remember what that door looks like. So one part of it is actually using your thoughts that come in terms of imagery in your head, still pictures, motion pictures of things that haven't happened yet when you imagine the race you want to have, or things that happened in the past, like you witnessed a bad crash on the bike and that's a kind of a disturbing thing for you. Those are things we can really work on directly. Another form the thoughts come in is sounds. And you can all remember songs, like if you go to a baseball game before they start the game, there's a song they play and it's all playing in your head right now. You know what it is. My niece calls it the baseball song. It's actually the Star Spangled Banner, but it might as well be called the baseball song. So that's another way that thoughts come into your head and rattle around in your head is sounds. And the sounds can be ambient noise like a dog barking or a chicken clucking, or it can be dialogue that you've had, your own voice or somebody else's voice. You recall a conversation you had yesterday. You can hear that conversation like it was happening now. The third form that thoughts come in is kinesthetic sensations. Like, you all know what it feels to be nervous before a race. That butterflies in your stomach and that kind of tight breathing and so forth. You can recall that now. In fact, some of you may actually be feeling the butterflies in your stomach as you recall being nervous before a race. Or emotional sensations also are a form of feelings. And so when you have that butterflies in your stomach, you interpret that as, oh, I'm nervous about the race. And that's an emotion that comes from a physical feeling. So those three forms of thoughts, pictures, sounds, and sensations, that's what we can work with. And we can use those and control those to actually have a better race results, have better training results, and have more enjoyment in the sport. So if you could have some things that you could take them away, things that hold you back, and say, if this didn't hold me back anymore, I could do so much better and have so much more enjoyment in this. Or things that you say, I need this to go forward, something that you added in, if you had more of it, you could go forward. Those are the kind of things that we're actually going to bring you in the first section. This is a 2-week course of 3 blocks coming up. So for example, I said, well, what if a lot of athletes have trouble with an internal chatter, a negative voice in their head that gives them a bad time. It tells them something that's not true, or it has kind of a snotty tone of voice, or it's panicky or something like that. And I don't know if this ever happened to you, but you might think of a particularly nasty internal dialogue you have in your mind's ear that makes you kind of feel bad. I don't know what it is. It could be anything about racing, or it could be something about life in general. It could be your voice or somebody else's, an old coach buried back there somewhere, or something your father or mother said sort of back in the future. when you think of a specific thing, a little thing that you tell yourself in your mind's ear, your voice or somebody else's, well, if it really bothers you, like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 6 or a 7 or an 8, it's this very intense bad feeling, we could change that right now. Here's what I want you to do. Think of that thing that voice says. Then I want you to ascribe how intense the feeling is. Is it a 1, which is I hardly notice, or a 10, like I'm fully gripped? And then go ahead and you're going to get that voice to say the same thing it did before, but before it does it, it has to take a big drink out of a helium balloon, breathe in deeply from a helium balloon, and put on an orange fright wig with the bald part in the top, like that. And then that voice gets to say what it says after having taken the helium. So go ahead and have that voice say what it does now on helium with the fright wig on. Now on a scale of 1 to 10, how seriously can you take that voice? You know, it just doesn't make any sense anymore that you can that it's a bothersome thing. So that's just one quick thing we could do. Another thing we could do is if you think about a time when you had a really great training bout or you had a really great race. And now what I want you to do is remember how that went, make a little movie about it and feel like it was like to be there. And then I want you to make the size of the screen bigger and bigger and bigger until it's just panoramic. And you can see what it was like to be there at the same time. And now I want you to turn up the color so it's really bright and vibrant and run that back. Now, doesn't that feel even better than when you were there? So these are some things we can do, specific techniques that we can use that will take you through in this course that will help you train better, race better, have more enjoyment. One of the things we found in looking at the sports psychology is there's a lot of stuff out there that says, here's what you ought to do, but very little about how to actually do it. So I was reading something today about how to get over your fear on the bike. And it said, well, you know, it's rational to have a fear on the bike, but you just have to muscle up and get over it. That doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me what I'm specifically supposed to do. It would be like going to the pool for a master's workout and have the coach on deck say, swim back and forth for an hour, and then we're done and get out. It doesn't tell me what to do. The stuff we're going to bring you are specific techniques. They're fast, they're easy, they're effective, and they're durable. You can try them and see how they work. So that's what we're going to be bringing you up. This is based on a book that we put together called The 4 Pillars of Triathlon. Essential mental conditioning for endurance athletes. In that book, we have 28 specific techniques that you can try to help you with what you want to do in terms of your triathlon career. So in this course, I've kind of organized it on 3 levels, and the first level is about release. Lots of athletes have things that hold them back, that if they were able to offload those things, get rid of those things, they would be able to go to the next level, which is kind of elevate and go gain those things that they want to have that they haven't been able to reach. And then the third level of the entire course will be about competing, and specifically about racing and how to go into race prepared, how to race well, how to unpack your races at the end, to debrief and so forth, and get ready for the next one. So this 2-week course that we put together is going to be really directed about getting rid of the stuff that holds you back. It's kind of the release part. Now, the best way to get the most out of this course is you actually have to do the work. So we've organized it to make it as easy as possible for you actually to do these things. There's going to be 3 forms we're going to ask you to fill out. The first one is going to be about your expectations and your goals for this 2-week course, and you actually have to kind of write it down. There's something magical about writing something down on paper, putting on electrons on a screen, more than just thinking about it. So we're going to ask you to do that. There's going to be one form that you're going to have to fill out that dials in specific to you, the best way that you can use to do some of these techniques, which are a little bit generic, but we're going to dial them in and make them personalized to you. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, we're going to have another form where you look back and see what did you gain and what do you need next. So you actually have to do that work. The other thing you have to do is we're going to give you specific techniques. You actually have to do the techniques. Mark Twain said, somebody who picks up a cat by the tail learns approximately 44% faster than somebody who reads about picking up a cat by the tail. And it's the same thing. The coach on deck at the pool can tell you, here's how I want you to swim down and back, but then you actually have to do it. You can't just sit there and say, okay, I heard it. You got to get the benefit by doing it. So you actually have to do the exercises, and we've structured this to make the exercises as easy as possible. Some of them we have written directions, so that you can follow along and do this later. Many of them we've audio taped so that you don't actually have to read it. You can sit, close your eyes, do the exercise, pause the tape when you need to in order to be able to do that next part and then go on. And some of them we made little cheat cards that you can, for example, we have a workout rehearsal pattern, which is really helpful for athletes to figure out what they're doing and before they go into their workout to get the best out of it. We've made a little cheat card that you can cut out and put in your gear bag or laminate onto your gear bag or something like that, so that you have that available. And then after you've done it for a few times, it becomes automatic and you don't really need it anymore. So that's how you get the most out of it, is actually do these things and try them out. Triathlon is an activity sport. You got to do what you need to do, and so taking you through the exercise and have you try them is going to be a key thing. So that's how this thing is all set up. We've made it as easy as possible for you to do these things and get a good, clear sense of what you want going in and how it worked out coming out the back end. And then we've lined this up so that you can get the most out of your sport and have the most enjoyment, and take that 25 or 50 or 75% mental and actually spend a little bit of time working on it so that you can actually improve on that. The good news about the mental stuff is it doesn't take very much time. So for example, you have to go for a 3-hour ride, it takes 3 hours, and there's really no way to kind of shortcut that. The good news about the mental conditioning things is many of these techniques take a matter of seconds, like the helium balloon thing. That only took about 15 seconds to think of an unhelpful phrase in your head and then have it repeated back to you with this kind of Minnie Mouse voice, and all of a sudden it takes all the sting out of it. It took almost no time. This rehearse your workout pattern that we're going to give to you at the beginning of the first week, that only takes about 1 minute to do. And it even takes less time the more practice you get with it. And in the middle of a 3-hour ride, you can actually practice some of these mental techniques during your 3-hour ride, so it doesn't take more time out of your day. So that's the good news about the mental training. Getting your mental skills takes almost no time at all. So that's what we're bringing you, is a 2-week sort of ascending block of mental training that's going to build on each part of this in a way that you can actually go ahead and practice these techniques and get what you want out of it to make your sport more enjoyable and have the results you want to get.